Hello and welcome. We have with us today Stephen Rogat, my friend going back many years. We won't say how many because it will reveal our age. But it's
I can't remember, so that reveals our age too.
so many years, man. We are OG. You know what that means, right? We are the original gangsters.
That's right.
Yes, yes,
Yes, we're getting the band back together.
yes. We're going on tour. It's the coronavirus 2020, quarantined in our homes and have nothing better to do but lucid dream. Hopefully, you like the segue because that is the subject of what we are talking about today. Stephen is an experienced lucid dreamer, has many decades of experience at it, and he teaches this subject. And he has volunteered his time and knowledge for us to allow me to interview him and get some techniques for lucid dreaming. We're going to begin with this interview where we're going to go over the basics. And by the time we're done with this interview, you are going to have things that you can start doing tonight to help you to lucid dream. And then over time, we're going to record more interviews as I play guinea pig and apply these techniques that Stephen is going to share with all of us here in just a moment. And I'll tell you, I have had a few lucid dreams. I even focused on it about 6 months ago very intently. Got to a point where I had a couple of flying dreams where I became lucid and I had it in my mind. If I realize I'm lucid dreaming, the first thing is let's fly. One time, the flight was in a brown leather lounge chair that I was
Oh,
flying around and controlling as if it was kind of like a helicopter.
that's great.
Pretty fun dream. I find that I can only get so much elevation. I also
Oh,
find that I really have to focus on this as something I really want to do if I'm going to get the results out of it. Because as soon as I stopped focusing on it 6 months ago, I can't remember being lucid since then. So I'm going to go about this in earnest to see if I can get the results, and we will teach others how to get the results that they want. They can have a lucid dream or many lucid dreams. So, Stephen, we want to identify for the audience what lucid dreaming is, but I think that first it's good for them to know about you because you are our teacher and you want to establish yourself as the expert. So, please tell us about your
well,
greatness.
I've been doing lucid dreaming now for, 30 something years. And I first got into it, I guess, with a lot of shamanic journeying, calling on my power animals using drumming, calling on my spirit guidance, and again using drumming or music, more because the shamanic journeying is mostly visual,
Mhm.
which a lot of dreams are mostly visual, or at least that's the strong point of the
Yes.
dream. And I guess I got into it with the intent of, I first started interpreting my dreams. And, and then not only interpreting the dream, but reprogramming the dream and we can get into that in a little bit, but to reprogram the dream to say, okay, now this is what the dream means, and now I'm going to reprogram the dream. In one case, it was I had a history of being chased
Yes.
and having to fight people off in my dreams, and then I'd fight them off successfully, and then the next dream I'd have a bigger gun and fight them off successfully,
Uh
and the
huh.
next dream there were more people chasing me, and I'd fight them off successfully until I was on a mountaintop and rays of light were coming through my hands to fight off an army. And I was like, well, this could go on forever. And then I actually had a shaman with me to help me explore where do I want to change the dream. And it was at that point it was somebody chasing me with this big glob of green stuff. I don't even know what it was, but he said, okay, let's program it that he can catch up and you're totally safe. Okay? You can catch up and you're totally safe. Of course, he used a shamanic technique of having me hyperventilate and then squeeze me until I passed out. Okay. That, that's one way to access the dream state.
Yes.
Okay. But then in the dream itself, then there was somebody approaching me with this big hypodermic needle, full of green glob, And I even said in the dream, I can let him catch up and I'm totally safe. I didn't run. He went to jab me in the arm, at which point the hypodermic needle got to be about that big. And I said, that was it? Okay. That was it. That's
So
just like
a
That's
big
just
a
like
big
my
fear is
mother.
lessened.
Yes,
What appeared to be a big fear, this huge needle, turns out that it was just a small thing.
that's right. That's it. That's just what like my mother used to do. And it was like, oh, I'm dreaming now. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just bam, bam, just like that. Um, Another one was, and this was when I first got in touch with one of my totems or animal spirits, and we can talk about that too. But
I'm going to
I
show
was,
mine here. Go ahead.
I was going on a vision quest, and I was in Utah, and I was heading towards. Oh,
I have
I
done
like.
a totem animal journey with Steven, by the way, where I discovered the wolf as one of my power animal totem animals. And to this day, the wolf is still very much part of my life and myself. And he also taught me that wolves are not just instinctual and great hunters, but they're also great lovers. They're very loyal. And it helped me to identify and see that there was a whole flip side to the wolf that I had not really
Yes.
considered before. So sorry to interrupt. You mentioned power
Oh
animals, and
no,
I
so
have
I
this
was
thing within reach, so I wanted to show it.
going on, and might I say you look alike? Okay. Uh, you laugh, but a lot of people do resemble their totems.
Yes, they do.
So, um, so I was camping alone. I was in Mesa Verde, and I asked my subconscious to please warn me if there was any physical danger. And I went to sleep affirming that. Please warn me if there's any physical danger, so I could go to sleep because
And
it, it
you're
was off
camping
season.
outdoors, right?
Oh yeah, and then it
Okay.
was off season, so I was the only person around for I don't know how far.
Yeah.
And I had this dream that this big buck, this deer, was chasing me, and I was running, and he was chasing me. And no matter how fast I ran, he ran faster. And I finally climbed a tree, and then he gets on his hind legs, and he's pounding the tree, and I'm trying to kick him off, and he's pounding the tree, and the noise and the shaking and whatever else. And I woke up thinking maybe that was a warning since I asked my subconscious to warn me.
Yeah.
I grabbed my knife that's because it was there, and that's what I did. And after about 5 minutes, felt really stupid because there wasn't a sound, there wasn't a movement, there was nothing. I was absently scratching my navel and pulled the tick out of it. And,
Ah. Uh huh.
and so then, interestingly enough, I made it to Utah to my Vision Quest location. It was nice. Not a whole lot happened except, I got sick and dehydrated, malnourished. And anyway, it was about a month later that I'm going through a dream and all of a sudden I am Bambi, the cartoon deer.
Yeah.
And I looked down at my hooves, which my hands, but they were hooves. And it's like, oh, I am the deer, but I'm not a deer, but I am a deer. And I must be dreaming, and I'll just go with it because I don't know what else to do. And it was during that time that again I was speaking to a shaman about a couple of those two dreams, and he says, "Well, that's your totem. that's your power animal, if they eat you or you become that animal, then then it's chosen you. And so since then, it's interesting because, well, being a healer, I have a lot of totems and a lot of power animals. We need them. We hoard them. Um, it's like, but if they're chasing, and a lot of times if it's chasing you, it's part of you that's trying to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've had other dreams. One was with a bee, a hornet, a golden hornet is one of my totems, and it was interesting because I started getting chased by these bees in the dream. I started getting chased. And and then at one point I had a dream. I'm gonna might call it a dream vision now, because when you're awake, it's more like a vision instead of just a dream. That I fell down and there was this whole hive of bees right in front of me, and I had the thought. I took a deep breath in the dream and said, I can let them catch up and I'm totally safe. I can let them catch up and I'm totally safe. The next day, I had two bees fly up my shirt and one bee fly up my shorts. And I did not get stung. I did not get stung whatsoever.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And
So nature
and
speaks to you through synchronicities.
that's right. So where
And
is the reality?
yeah.
Where, because when those bees got in my shirt, I took a deep breath and I said, I can let it be there and I'm totally safe, as I pull over and whip my shirt off.
Yes. And we
Well,
look for these things to know that we are in tune with these deeper forces of life in the universe. When you start having synchronicity events in your life where there's a meaningful coincidence, then
yes,
you know that you are doing something right. And I think that lucid dreaming and dreaming in general can give you the same sort of indicators. You will find that there will be things that will happen in your life that are extensions of what happened in your dreams. You'll see that a person who you saw in a dream last night, hadn't seen him in years, they suddenly contact you the next day. Or you find yourself in a place you've never been in before, but you dreamed about it last night. So these synchronicities, like you said, where the bees actually, it connected with your dream. You had the dream about the bees, you prepared yourself ahead of time, and then the very next day, you had a chance to test what you
that's right.
learned. So now life is the classroom where you learn these things in your experiences of vision and lucid dreaming and dreaming in general, and then basically the world, life, waking life, will test you to see if you have integrated your lessons. Is that
Well,
what you
I
feel like you experienced?
I like more than synchronicity, which I like that word. I like overlap.
Yeah.
That one reality overlaps the other. So in the dream state, waking reality can come in, and in waking reality, the dream life can come in.
Okay,
Um,
students, take note of this. We're not differentiating the way that we usually do, where dream life and waking life are these two totally separate states of being. They have nothing to do with each other. This is the common perception. Most people don't know better. Now, to begin your lucid dream training, let's reconceptualize our idea that this is a continuum, an overlap between waking
yes,
reality and dreaming reality, and they affect each other. You are not just lucid dreaming to have the experience of it, although that's a good, motivation to begin this. It can be something that you learn how to do, like a backflip, or learning how to swim, or something interesting that you achieve. But what you're really learning how to do is pull these two worlds together so that they are not as separated. They start to become a continuum.
well, to that, I want to say you better know how to swim before you hit the water. I don't
Okay.
care how many backflips you do.
Yeah. So let's do our basic training. You've established yourself. You're a shamanic practitioner. Your day job is a counselor. At least back in the day when I lived with you in North, or not with, but we lived in the same area of North Carolina. I know that you were a regular practitioner of the counseling arts.
Yes.
And you're also a healer. You do basically intuitive medical healings. You've
Yes.
told me that people come to you in your dreams for healings, that you're able to do some of your shamanic healing techniques in the dream state for people who come to you in a shared dream environment.
And and lots of times it's the night before they show up. Okay, it's the night before they come for the appointment. And
Uh-huh.
and and they come to me, and lots of times I will share a dream that I had about them, or they'll share a dream that they had that I was in.
Yeah.
And I just tell them, well, I won't charge you for that one, you know?
Uh, and Steve has a sense of humor, folks, and I think that that's also a valuable thing approaching this kind of work. Is you've got to be able to laugh at yourself. Don't take anything too seriously. Keep things light. It is serious work, like you said. In a sense, you've got to know how to swim before you do a backflip into the pool. So we do want to have a certain measure of stability in our lives, the ability for self-reflection and critical thinking.
Well,
Your emotions can't be in turmoil. If you're experiencing a crisis or something, maybe it's not the best time to start learning lucid dreaming.
well, but that's a catch 22, or that's a conflict there, because lots of times when we are under stress, we want to see more. We want to figure more out. And so sometimes when we're under a lot of stress, we are actually open more psychically or more consciously. So it's like, yes, we want the stability, but lots of times this stuff comes when you don't have the stability, because all of a sudden I want to see more, I want to understand more, I want to know what's going on, and bam, it opens you up. And of course, sure, then it'd be nice. That's why I'm glad we're laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
So when this stuff happens, you can actually understand what's happening instead of getting even more stressed out. And we know where that goes. I want to see more, so I see more, which gets me more stressed out, which makes me want to see more, which gets me more stressed out. And so we don't want to. Sorry, I was just following a butterfly. I'm on my front porch.
I saw it earlier. I thought it was a dragonfly. It flew right in front of the screen as you were talking about animals and, signs from nature. And I see this thing flutter in front of the camera. I'm like, oh, there we go.
There we go.
So I
Well,
want to, as the guinea pig, I would like to tell everyone that my motivation for doing this is because I know that there is more than the material reality that I have adapted to fairly well. And that I know that there are kind of gateways through dreaming to experience these deeper things, and I want to know what they are, and have my personal experience of it. So this is my motivation for doing this, at least in part. Plus, I think it would be just really cool to experience. When I had one lucid dream I remember very well, where I became lucid in the dream, and I started touching the environment. I was just like feeling the air, and then started sort of touching the walls and stuff. And I said to myself, I want to remember when I'm awake what this feels like, because it feels like there's no it's calm. You're very aware. You feel warm, you feel loved, you feel able, you feel empowered, and I
and you
was
feel
like,
like you're more in control of your environment.
yes, yeah. And it feels like the way that we should all feel naturally while we are awake and going about our lives. We should have just that feeling of ease and confidence about our ability to navigate in the world. But we know shit happens. There's a lot of stuff in life that throws, stressors at us, and things that can block up our emotions and make us maybe not feel so good about ourselves. So I would like to pull more of what I felt in the lucid state so that I can be that and live that in my waking life.
So we can feel that experience. So partly so we can be in the experience. Uh, in other words, yeah, shit happens. I can say that, right?
Yes, we
This
are.
this isn't 30 years ago. I can say shit happens. Shit happens, and it's how we respond to it that is a measure of health, basically. And so if I can let something bad happen and I'm totally safe and totally in control, then that actually helps me in my normal waking life
Yeah.
as well as the dream life.
So by learning the lucid dream, there's a lot of things we're going to do for ourselves, but you could say that it's kind of the ultimate form of self-help. You know, if you can learn how to confront things in your dream environment that are bothering you, or to discover new things, it's not just, you know, trying to get away from negative things. It's also things that are empowering. After I had my first flying dream, I remember the first half of the next day, of course, after I woke up, I felt like just, you know, on walking on the clouds. You know, it was like,
Top of the
wow, man, I had
world.
this really, it was so real. I was flying and it felt like I was, you know, I didn't have to like flap my arms like a bird. I didn't have to try to do Superman. It was just kind of like levitating off the ground and, you know, take off.
Yeah.
So it
And
was great.
and at this point we have to say, don't try this at home. No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, the disclaimer I will put across the bottom of the screen,
Yes.
you know, if you try this at home, where, you
Yes.
know, yeah, we are not liable for
Right.
bumping your head on your ceiling as you're trying
Yes.
to exit your bedroom in
That's right.
spiritual form, but you haven't overcome the belief that you are still in a material body and that walls are solid. Um,
Yes. Or that,
which
the second story window is still, 25 feet up. Don't jump, please.
Yeah, well,
Um,
unless you're absolutely sure that it is a dream. So let's begin there, Stephen.
yes.
Lucid dreaming is the awareness that you are dreaming. You have a conscious, rational part of your mind that's usually turned off in normal dreaming. It is with you. You are able to recognize that it is a dream. So
And
let's begin there because this is step number one. It's like if you interpret dreams, you have to remember them. If you're going to lucid dream, then first you have to realize that it's a
that's your
dream.
dream.
So let's get
Yes.
us to that point.
Well, and there's a difference. Lots of people say, oh, astral travel. I want to learn to astral travel. It's like, well, there's a difference, but they're really the same. Astral traveling is when you're going to sleep or leaving your body and you keep your consciousness, whereas the lucid dreaming is leaving your body and going to sleep and gaining the consciousness.
Okay.
But it is real similar, like that flying dream,
Yes.
um, because after then I started having a series of dreams about water and waves and being threatened and whatever else until I finally said, wait, I can let it catch up and I'm totally safe. Let it catch up and I'm totally safe. And then one dream, there was a pirate ship and they were having me walk the gangplank.
Oh, what an
And,
experience.
and I was chained up or tied up or whatever else. I went down into the water and I started breathing. And it was like, well, wait a second now.
Uh-huh.
Okay, wait a second, because again, I can let that happen and I'm totally safe. Wait a second. I can breathe underwater. I should be dead. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but I'm breathing underwater, which means this is a dream.
Yeah.
And if this is a dream, I can do anything. And at that point, I flew and went to visit my sister in a different state. Um,
So it's a
so
discrepancy with reality. You know, when was the last time you walked a gangplank that switches on the lucid awareness in the dream state?
Hmm.
You've also taught me. Will you discuss the noticing the hands technique? Something taught by Carlos Castaneda.
Yes.
I started doing it before we went on air, more in earnest, trying to stick a finger through the palm, but
Oh,
also just spreading my fingers and noticing lines and stuff. And then I try to point my finger at things and flick or send power to it. So if it's like a ball, it'll roll. If it's
uh-huh.
a rock, it'll fly. I can do those things in dreams, but if obviously I'm awake, I haven't achieved the Gandalf level of wizard powers yet where I
Right.
can do that kind of stuff. So it's a way for me to say, this is waking reality. So they call this reality checks in the teaching of lucid dreaming. I've just kind of thrown some ideas at you there. Will you take this and run with it? Teach our students how they become that trigger for lucid awareness. What are they going to do in their waking life to help them to build up that muscle?
Oh, okay. What they can do in their waking life. One is actually, there's a difference between, well, we can accept things as they happen. Oh, that crappy thing, that bad thing just happened. I accept that that happened. Okay. And now what do I want to do about it? I can accept that happened. How do I want to respond? Okay. So I hyphenate the word responsibility.
Yes.
It's the ability to respond. Okay. Now, in my waking life, I can affirm that and know that and acknowledge that and accept that. And then again, once that goes into the dream state, that response ability is like, wait a second,
Hmm.
I have control of how I want to respond to this situation. Um, now, the other thing, by the way, when you were talking about putting your finger through your palm or levitating a rock, and you haven't done that in and waking life, I actually did that this morning. I was heading towards, my TV was on, but it was on pause. Pandora, it was on pause.
Uh huh.
And as I'm heading towards the remote to turn it on, it turns itself on. And I was like, okay, little bit of overlap there. That's okay. I
Steve
haven't
left
turned
his
the
wizard robes, by the way. They're inside the house in the hat. He has a really funny hat that's, and he shaved the beard down. But yeah, in his,
check.
yes, yes. But he is a wizard. But you will notice
So,
that these kinds of weird, I don't want to label it, but these very interesting things will start happening to you as you are able to take responsibility
do it. That's right.
so this is a very interesting place to begin. Taking responsibility, in other words, you are able to respond to whatever
Respond.
happens in your waking life, will carry over into the dream because you can respond now to what is happening in the dream in the same way you did in your waking life with
And then what
responsibility,
happens?
calm, and ease.
And then it happens the other way too, like you said. If I can experience that response ability, I can respond in the dream state, then you can bring it into waking life as well.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
fascinating. Okay.
that's and I've been through and I do a whole lot of hypnosis and relaxation and stress management and whatever else. And I think that's a good place to start. It's like, oh, that just happened. I'm feeling the tension, but I can relax and just let it be. Just to let it be.
And as you
Uh,
said that, I made my shoulders relax.
oh, good.
And so just as a demonstration that as many times a day as you need to, it could be 100, it could be 10, it could be 1,000 times a day. You want to tell yourself to relax and make
Hmm.
your body respond. You take a deep breath, relax the shoulders, relax the face. And this is going to carry over. This kind of training is going to carry over into your dream life so that you're more likely to become lucid. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
because you can step back and witness. You can step
Ah,
back and witness something happening rather than getting
caught
all
up in
involved
it,
in it.
which is what
So,
pulls you into a dream, a normal dream, And what can pull you out of a lucid dream is you get involved mentally in participating in what's going on around you. So you're saying that the more that you can be an observer, whether in
Yes,
your waking life, that's where it begins, but it'll carry over into your dream life where you can step back and observe what's happening rather than getting caught up in it.
that's right. So, I mean, one thing I do recommend just for the health of it as well is a mindfulness meditation, and just I tell people just give it 5 to 60 minutes once or twice a day. Okay, because I don't want to burden somebody, you know.
Right?
So, I'm an ex-Buddhist. I don't need to do an hour twice a day. I'm a recovering Buddhist, but it's five to just to be aware. Um, and one classic Buddhist meditation is Vipassana, just to watch your abdomen with your eyes closed. Just watch your abdomen rise and fall with each breath, and and thoughts get in the way, or you start getting restless, or you have an itch, or whatever else, and you just say, well, that's just my mind getting in the way. Those are just my thoughts getting in the way. And I gently, the capital G,
Yeah.
gently get back to watching my breath. It is basically cultivating a witness state.
Okay.
Um, and some people, you can stare like above an object about 6 feet away from you, or at a candle above the candle, and just be aware of it. And again, thoughts and whatever else will come, and you just say, okay, that's just my thoughts. I can gently get back to my awareness and watching. Some people, Tom Brown Jr., who's actually a protege of Peterson's Field Guide to
Yeah.
Birds, Peterson's Field Guide. Well, Tom Brown Jr. was actually a protege of his, but Tom Brown Jr. was trained by an Apache medicine man. And so he brings another dimension into his nature watching. And he says, this is his. You pick a square foot of land, square foot of dirt, and be aware of what is in that square foot of dirt. And again, thoughts will come up, and you might solve the world's problems during that meditation, but that's just your thoughts getting in the way, and get back to being aware. So that's his form of mindfulness. So it's to cultivate the witness state.
Okay.
Um, and it's to separate and just say, wait a second now. I should be dead. I shouldn't be breathing underwater. And if I am, that means I'm dreaming. That's the separation. It's like, hold on, wait a second. Um,
So that is a type of lucid dream then when you have like I've had dreams where I was able to breathe in water, but I didn't become lucid. I was just simply aware of the fact that I was in the water. So
yes.
we need to be able to take that to the next step for anyone that wants to learn how to lucid dream. How are they going to use that as a cue to become lucid? Because again, you're
And
participating in the dream very heavily. Oh, I think I just answered my own question. Okay.
yes, yes. So the step is, what am I going to do with it? In other words, that's the next step. It's the control or the responsibility. Okay, I'm breathing underwater. Now what? Okay, so that's why I recommend. I recommend the second that you have a dream, that's the second to write it down. But also, I got into the habit of interpreting the dream right then and there,
Yeah. Huh?
uh, and then reprogramming it when I go back to sleep another 5 minutes later. Hopefully, it isn't a really long dream. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, but when I go back to sleep a few minutes later, it's right then and there. What does that dream mean, and what do I want to do with it? And I go back into the dream state to change it. When you were talking about, well, I see my hand and I want to see myself putting my finger through my palm. Castaneda actually said, just keep focusing on your hands, even if it's a matter of just a few minutes before you go to sleep, and focus in on your hands while you're sleeping. And sooner or later, you will be able to see your hands in the dream. And then he says, now the next step is to turn them over.
Okay.
That's the response. That's
Okay.
the, that's the, my, and this took a while for me. Well, some of that was my hands, because when I become an animal, I see my paws or my flippers or my hooves or my wings or whatever else. So some of that is seeing my hands, and some of that is a personal access. And I say, and I'm pointing now. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, and this might be for you, it's because I feel like lots of people have a brief moment of realizing it's a dream.
Yeah.
When, where was the turning point in that dream from when I was a participant to when I was an observer and maybe I want to say composer, director, controller? So where was the turning point? And that's really important to understand. Where was the turning point? In other words, also in like we're having a nice positive dream or whatever else, and then all of a sudden the shit hits the fan. What was that turning point? That's when I can go back and program and say I can let that happen and I'm totally safe. What was the turning point between when I was a participant and when I became a witness? Mine is actually a crack. I noticed a crack or a line the first time, well, one of the first times I was on a railroad track and the train was headed towards me and I saw the railroad track. I saw the two lines and it's like, wait, I can let that happen and I'm totally safe. And by the time the train reached me, it was this little toy train that went between my legs. And I said, okay, that's nice. Another time it was a window. It was a crack in a window. And I was looking through the window in the dream, and then I saw the crack, and then I went through the crack. And so I realized that that crack, or it's a door being slightly ajar, there's that line and that crack, and then I woke up.
So you're
Uh,
training yourself by realizing these things when you're awake, that there were things that in your dreams that could have made you become lucid if you had noticed them. In your case, we're
that's right.
talking about hands, but then for you personally, it was noticing cracks, obviously, where it was something that could have stood out to you as being unreal if you had
Yes,
programmed your mind to recognize it while you're in the dream state. So we're going to begin by reviewing our dreams, each person individually, to find a dream sign, something that could have
that's right.
made you lucid because of its surreal or unusual aspect. And you're going to program yourself to recognize it the next time you see it in a dream. Is that fair to?
That's right. And with some
Okay.
people, the hand thing does work. For me, once I recognized that it was a crack, in my waking life, I was more aware of cracks. I'd
Yes.
even take a deep breath and say, okay, there's one line. Oh, okay. Oh, there's another line. There's that line between the floorboards of the porch. There's that.
So it
Oh,
doesn't even have to be unusual. I mean, a crack, we see them all the time, cracks in the sidewalk or something.
that's
You're
right.
just making yourself aware of it to program in your mind so that if you see it at all, not necessarily an unusual or surreal experience in a dream, but you see it at all, and then you know that you're
That,
dreaming.
that's the doorway. That's the gateway.
Okay.
And lots of times during the dream, it would be, wait a second. All of a sudden I'd focus in on it.
Yeah.
Um, the crack in the window is like, what's that doing there? Everything was normal in the dream until the crack. Okay. The
Oh,
the the train coming, even the train coming, well, to run me down, that was normal until I looked down and the railroad, the I don't know what you call it, the spikes, the railroad line, the metal went on forever
the tracks,
and
yeah.
back and forth, and it was like, wait a second, that was weird. Okay, um, and just in a dream, I'm about to open a door all the way, but I noticed the crack. It's like, why would I focus? Why does that seem out of place? So it's the normal, something normal that might say, ah, that that drew your attention, I
Okay.
guess. It
And
draws the attention.
gives the deeper dreaming mind, there's a kind of an intelligence. We're going to get into this in a future episode, but I want to foreshadow here that there is an intelligence behind the dream that is autonomous. It has your best interest and it wants to get your attention. So if you start giving it these tools to work with while you are in a dream state, it might start throwing these things at you to say, "Hey, wake up, let's go have some fun." You know, it's like
That's
the dog, standing at the door with the leash in its mouth. It wants you to get lucid so that you can, so now
that's
what
right.
you're doing is consciously giving it the tools to work with. So let's review. I think this is a good time to review. We have enough for our students and myself to work with right now. So this week we are first, we're going to pay attention to our dreams in general. We're going to keep a dream journal.
Yes.
If you can interpret and work with the dream, that's great. But we'll save those lessons for another time. I teach dream interpretation, so maybe
Yeah.
I'll put a
Yeah.
link into some of my books and sources and stuff for that. The second thing is that we are going to be response able. We are responding to things in our environment in a way that we feel like we're in control, we're calm. We are able to take responsibility for ourselves, for our emotions, for our reactions,
Yes. For our responses.
and our responses to things, because that's going to carry over into the dream world. And then we're going to become just more aware. There was a term that you used. I'm trying to pull it up, and my brain is starting to
Uh-oh.
fry. What did you say? What did you say? You used the term. Uh,
It
Maybe we just say
was.
awareness.
Oh, which brings up, the interesting thing. There's a word play. I'm going to let it catch up, and I'm totally safe. It's more like beware, beware, but break that into two words.
Be aware.
Be aware.
All right. So that's going to begin in our waking lives. We're going to be mindful of the moment. If we're not already practicing some simple awareness of the breath, of things going on in the environment, it's so that we don't get as lost in our own heads all the time.
Yes.
I
So we
walk
don't
through
get
life a
lost.
lot of times in that state where I'm not focused on what's going on around me. So I have started this before our conversation. So I have a head start. But we would like all of our students, if they're not already practicing some kind of basic mindfulness, which is just being fully present in the moment. Your
And
thoughts
being
are going
aware.
to wander away. That's natural. But what you're going to get in the habit of doing is realizing that your, awareness is floated off somewhere and you're going to bring it back into your body, into
To
your
be a
immediate
witness.
environment, to be a
To be a witness.
witness. And that's
Yes.
going to carry over into the dream state because
Yes.
that observer witness state of mind is what's going to help you to back out of the participatory nature of the dream
Yes. To
to allow
pull you
you
out.
to observe it and be aware and lucid. Okay.
And that's to be aware. And again, the there's a turning point in a lot of dreams. Where did that dream go south? You know,
Okay.
let me get the exact moment where that went south, and let me reprogram that when I go back to sleep.
So we're going to reflect on our dream life in general, recent dreams, and then extending back to see if there is something in our dream content that could have made us lucid if we would have been more aware of it. Breathing
Yes.
underwater, flying, getting tossed off of a pirate ship.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, we know that these are things that could make us lucid and aware if we would have been able to do it at the time. So we're going to kind of review these things, and we're going to find something that in the future will
Hmm.
make us aware and lucid in the dream. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Is there anything else that you've covered that?
Well, there's a turning point as well, whether that's in waking life or dream life. Where did things go south? And let me see if I can change that. Number one, I can let that happen and I'm totally safe. Now what? Okay,
All right.
now
Yeah.
and then I think that that's where the magic can happen, both in our lives, but then also in the dream state, where I can let that happen. Now what?
Okay.
Okay, and so that's the responsibility. Now what? Now what do I want to do? Um, it's interesting because when I was talking about the bees and the hornets, I had been thinking about moving at that point from Boulder to Colorado Springs. And I was real scared because I didn't have a job then there. How was I going to make a living or whatever else? I was already starting to get some private practice clients down there. But then I had a dream a couple of weeks later where I fell down on the ground. I was at a party in Colorado Springs, went outside, fell down on the ground, and there were some bees. And then all of a sudden, I'm standing there surrounded, totally surrounded and engulfed with the bees. I mean, to the point where, again, lightning and flashes of light could channel through me, but I was totally safe and I didn't have to kill the bees, And actually, then a month later, I moved to
Huh.
Colorado Springs,
Uh huh.
because the bee to me was fear, fear of the physical and material changes. That's what the bee is to me. It's like, wait a second, I can do this. I can do this. So actually, it was within a month, I found myself totally self employed in Colorado Springs. And my regular job in Boulder was down to 4 hours a week. And well, I might as well move. Okay. Yeah, so it's the surrender. I can let it happen. That's what my guidance, my higher self wanted. And I surrendered. I surrendered. You
Okay.
know, and I'm with a lot of dream interpreters. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. I,
Yes.
I mean, sometimes it just isn't important. Everything in the dream, I just don't. I don't. We can get a little OCD, and everything, every little thing is important. But then we'll get burnt out. So, what are the important parts of it?
Well, in our next lesson, I would like to also discuss what is the dream environment when you interact with things like characters or animals or whatever in a dream environment. What is it that you're actually interacting with? And also, what are the various states of lucid dreaming? Because you mentioned something about the astral state being
Astral
you're remaining
protection.
aware as you're going to sleep, whereas in lucid dreaming you become aware after you've gone to sleep. And so you're hinting here at a future lesson where we find out that this is a spectrum of experience, that these things
Yes.
are all very similar. You're in which astral is also called out of body. And so I know a lot of people from having participated in like the lucid dreaming forum at Reddit, and at
Uh-huh.
Dreams, where I'm the moderator at the Dreams forum, where we get a lot of questions about this, and people ask, well, what's the difference between these? Is there a difference? And so we're going to foreshadow here that in our next lesson, we're going to talk about these things a little more. But first, students, what do we need to do? We need to start practicing the things that we've talked about. I will put up a little thing next to your head, maybe right across your forehead,
Not my.
where it'll be like a reminder
Uh-oh.
for some of these things that we just reviewed. So Don't worry, students, but we do want you to take notes if you're real interested in doing this stuff. But I will put up some notes for you this time so that you can have some simple things that you can start doing right now. Are you
Now,
paying
this
attention to your
second,
breathing right this second?
yes,
Where
be
you can start to
aware
apply these things that we're learning. Be aware, be calm,
and be responsible.
be responsible. Yep. Okay. Stephen,
Yeah.
thank you. This
Oh,
is going to be
wonderful.
exciting. And we're going to continue doing this. In
I'm
about a
excited
week,
about it.
we will pick up again. We will do lesson 2. So we have our marching orders and
Oh,
or our lesson plan, so
yeah.
that we can
Or,
start
or
experiencing this wonderful
our
thing called
flight
lucid
plan.
dreaming. Our
We'll
life
call it
plan.
flight
Yeah, man.
plan.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, sir, for
You too.
sharing. Yeah, man, this is great.